Well, not a great picture because you're all in the shade, but
hey, as long as it shows good people.
Plus your camera woman.
plus your camera woman.
Plus, yes, 4, and a baby. So I want to thank you guys for coming out tonight. We're going to be talking to you guys about a topic that is near and dear to me. A topic that most of you guys know about because you guys are close friends of mine, but some details that you guys probably have no idea about. So, the purpose of this speech is to persuade you. This topic is hard to persuade anybody because they already have views picked out about how they feel about this topic. However, given my personal experience and how strongly I feel about the topic, my hope is not to persuade you, but that God would do something in your heart that would change your mind if you have a different feeling about the topic than I do. So, with that being said, the topic I'm going to talk about are the mentally ill and the homeless, and how our views as the United States, as people, and as Christians is a skewed view. Even if we don't project that out, a lot of us hold those views inside. So, I'm going to challenge you guys. Challenge your views. If your views are different than mine, you're going to be challenged tonight. At least that's my hope. So let's look at mental illness and homelessness. What are the common ideas or the common views? For those people, we probably view them as creepy. You see somebody walking down the street talking to themselves, or you see somebody on the side of the road sweating bullets and having a panic attack, you're thinking, what a freaking weirdo. You think they're weird, maybe evil, lazy, especially a lot of the views of the homeless is that they're lazy. Why don't you go get a job, or why don't you go do X, Y, Z? And last, for the mentally ill, they're usually unrealistic. On a personal note, I've been to both of those places. I've dealt with some form of mental illness, and I've been to some extent homeless. I was almost there in one point in my life in both of those. Too often as a nation and as Christians, we view these two groups of people harshly. We have stern judgments of them. As noted earlier, we probably think they're creepy, or weird, or lazy, or unrealistic, misguided. But I'd like to remind you guys, as Jesus reminds us, and as he reminds Peter, when he comes back, he asks Peter, Peter, do you love me? And he asks Peter that 3 times, and Peter gives the same answer. And finally, Jesus says, if you love me, then feed my sheep. I think too often we drive past somebody, or we walk past somebody that is mentally ill or homeless, and we look at them and we don't feed them. Not literally, but spiritually we don't feed them, and I'm just as guilty as anybody else. I think that to piggyback on what Jesus did, Jesus modeled servitude as well, where we tend to, as Americans, as people, as sinners, we model entitlement and disregard for those groups of people. And like I said, I'm just as guilty as anybody else. But I also have a different view than most people. I've tasted anxiety and wrestled with suicide. I've sat on the side of the road when anxiety had gotten the best of me, and heard voices in my head telling me, you should do this, you should do that, you should end your life. I've seen what anxiety and what homelessness and what the lie that Satan puts in people's minds can do. It is crippling. It can cripple your faith, and it can lead you into despair and a lack of trust in God and in other people. I've tasted homelessness and wandered even from house to house. I can remember as a child living at my grandparents' house, which for most people isn't a big deal. But then you go and live at a church member's house for 2 months while they're on vacation. And when they come back, you don't stay. To me, that's homelessness. I watched my mom wait at the back of grocery stores for free food. And on a joking matter, I always was curious why she'd come home with 16 loaves of bread, and they were all different kinds of bread. Why do we need 16? Oh, they were free. They were discounted. I feel that my goal for this speech is not to press guilt upon you guys, on your hearts or your minds, not to ask you guys for sympathy. Because, like I said, I'm guilty just as the next person is. But I do believe that Jesus mentioned pulling out our own plank out of our eyes before we can address what somebody else does. What I do want to impress upon your hearts and minds is a need and a desire to those people and not a need and desire to see those people as people and not garbage like a lot of us do. Because odds are they already view themselves that way and don't need another voice or another lack of action towards them to cement that lie. So, Michael, what's your point? Love the homeless, love the mentally ill, love the widows, love the orphans, love the children. We get it, we've heard it. My point is, let's work on opening our eyes and try better to understand a population that has become so accustomed to being neglected and ostracized. Thank you.